Hi there, this is Joanne from TrueAuthenticPower.com from Tapping.me, and I'm also the creator of the program Catapulting to Confidence. I want to talk today about something that I think is really important. So many people suppress, repress, or escape their emotions, and what that does is it leads to anxiety and internal stress. It can lead to illnesses, symptoms, feeling stuck, blocking you in multiple ways. All of those symptoms don't come out of nowhere for no reason. So when somebody is afraid to move forward, there's something there that's saying you're afraid. It's not that you're lazy, crazy, or stupid. You're afraid. When symptoms come out as illnesses, that's a wake-up call. Right now, as I'm recording this, we are in the middle of Cancer Month, and I look at cancer very differently, and I have had it myself almost immediately because I knew the stress level that was going on in my life. I knew what was happening behind the scenes that was provoking such out of balance behavior and activity. For me, it was a wake up call. It was not a thing to survive. It was, why now? Why did this come out of the blue? Same thing happened when I developed allergies. Why now? How come out of the blue? What is my body trying to say? I didn't understand energy back then, and I'm not trying to tell anybody about anything except that symptoms come out in different ways to give you some nudges, some wake-up calls, to encourage you to say, oh, I'm trying to get your attention. I'm trying to get your understanding here. And the more we suppress or repress or escape emotions, they've got to come out somewhere. So think of it like a hose. When you shut off the end of a hose with one of those nozzles, it kind of tries to shut off, but it can come out sideways, or there can be a leak around the valve or, the screw on top. And if you leave it on long enough, I would expect, I've never done this, but I would expect you might eventually get a split in the hose, because how much pressure can one person take? How much pressure can you resist before it starts screaming and coming out sideways? I like to use the reaction of road rage. When people are going into road rage, it is not because of the other driver. It is because they are like the hose, screaming out, having to come out somewhere, and that's an easy target. Blame is an easy target. But I want to go a little deeper, because a lot of people are repressing things that may be so difficult, or suppressing things that may be so uncomfortable, or trying to escape. And those are actually ways to cope. They're actually ways that we learned, probably even at our earliest ages, of how do we stay out of trouble? How do we please them? How do we get love? Or how do we escape? What do we do? A lot of those behaviors were really solutions at the time. But when solutions get out of control, or we repress long enough, or we suppress long enough, or we escape long enough, there's a wake-up call, usually of some kind. It shows up in emotions. It shows up in physical ways. It shows up in a variety of feeling stuck, procrastinating, avoiding. And that serves a purpose. It's trying to keep you away from pain. I don't think people understand that there's a method to what seems like madness underneath. I did this when I went through a horrific time in my life. There were so many negative, heavy, big, I've mentioned it before, people, death and dying, illness, long-standing illness, coming apart at the seams, almost losing my house, feeling like every time I turned around, there was another major fire, and they were all big. I didn't on purpose repress. I didn't consciously do that. But our minds and bodies are smart. When there's too much to handle, when there's just too much going on, you might find yourself repressing, and you don't even know you've done it. I remember after my dad passed away, I had never been afraid of the dark, and I had never been afraid to go to their house, my parents' house. But after he passed, oh my goodness, I didn't have time to really grieve, and I think it was such a shock on top of it that I repressed all of that, and it came out in the fear of being in their house. I didn't realize I was doing that. I didn't know I was doing that, though I did think it was very strange that I wasn't reacting the way I had always expected that I would, with really falling apart and coming apart at the seams. I internalized it. because there was another crisis right on the tail of my dad passing. There were actually a few crises on the tail of my dad passing. I had to fight the next fire, so I repressed. Now, repression is not conscious. You're not doing it on purpose. You're not doing it to just look the other way. You don't even know you're doing it, as was the case with me. And I would imagine if any of you listening to this have gone through any major shock, it is sometimes so hard to cope with the shock or the anger or the frustration or the tension or whatever the combination of feelings is, that you may have repressed some things too that you didn't even realize. Suppression is consciously shutting it down, looking the other way, looking for other avenues, and that's where the escape comes in. Alcohol, internet, anything addictive, TV, sugar, anything that you're coping with, even sometimes if it's overdoing it in a healthy way, you may be running, spinning, trying to avoid. And some of those things, the healthier things, can be beneficial, but there's still a method of running, coping, and escaping. What if there's a way that you don't have to keep repressing so it comes out sideways, suppressing so that you're constantly having to find a way to shut down the feelings, or coping with something that is really helping you escape? Wouldn't you rather untangle what's underneath so that you don't have to keep doing that? I know a lot of people have done that for decades, years and years and years on end. And when they released what was going on underneath, there's a calmness. You know, if you're always having to be with people, if you're always having to be on point, can't stand to be alone, afraid of boredom, a lot of those things are giving you signals that you're repressing, suppressing, or trying to escape. When people shut down, they're trying to cope. There's nothing wrong with that. But here's the good news. Though we may have learned some of those things, not repression so much, because repression is really unconscious, but suppression and escapism, we a lot of times learn that. What we saw our parents do, our family do, people around us do. Oh, just think of the positive. Look the other way. Yeah, that doesn't get rid of the pain. That just covers it up. And, you know, you can't put perfume on, well, shit. It's just the way it is. It's still going to smell. You've got to clean it up. So how do you do all that? That's one of the reasons why I love the technique of tapping, because you may not know what you're repressing. When I started uncovering what was underneath for me from that very, very painful time, I didn't consciously choose it, but I wanted to eliminate it, because living like that anxiety-ridden, undercurrent of being afraid and feeling alone and lost and all that, do you really want to feel that forever? So in the past, I have noticed that when people get to the underlying stuff, me included, when you get to the underlying stuff, the calm starts to happen. The peace starts to happen. The getting past things, and not just because you're looking the other way, starts to happen. Your body can relax. Digestion can become normal. Even when people have cold hands and cold feet, those are symptoms. You're in fight or flight when you've got cold hands and cold feet on a regular basis. It's because you're getting ready to run and you're always on edge. When people talk about surviving an illness, I think there's more to the story, and there's really a call out for what are you doing and what are you so running away from, suppressing, repressing, or escaping from. It has a bigger message. And the more you know about energy and how we use our energy, how we can uncover what's underneath, the stronger you will feel. And I'm not talking just emotionally or physically. I'm just talking in life, in general. You want to be able to undo those things that you used to cope and escape with. But when you give them up, if you stop doing them and you haven't cleared up the undercurrent, a lot of people either struggle, like white knuckle, to struggle to let go of those addictive things that have become escapisms, or they turn to something else. How many times have you seen that happen? That's why people turn to food after they stop smoking, or, you've seen it. I don't have to explain it. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. You don't want to have to keep looking for the next solution to shut it down, cover it up. Wouldn't it be beneficial if you could find a way to take down the resistance of going into those repression, suppression, escapism mechanisms, memories, whatever you want to call that, and actually release them, to actually give your body that calm feeling so you're not constantly running away, diverting, or looking for the next fix of something to escape to. I want to give some of these audios a little bit of time to breathe because everybody jumps into, let's do some tapping. I want to do some tapping. First, I want you to see what's going on. It took me a while because I'm telling you, I did a lot of tapping that did not work. And I kept thinking, why does it work for everybody else, but it doesn't work for me? I was in so much repression. And on some level, I kind of knew that, but I didn't know how to get near it. So there are ways that a tapping practitioner like myself, a tapping coach, can take down that charge so that you're not jumping off the deep end. You don't have to go head first into the biggest traumas of your life and scare yourself to death. No, that's not what I'm talking about. There is a way to take down the charge, the energy, the fear, the resistance, so that you're not screaming, no, I don't want to go there. Don't make me. That's actually part of the tapping right there. So I want to do just a little bit of that tapping just to give you maybe a little bit of breathing room. I'm not going to do a lot here because I just want to give you like I said, a little bit of room to breathe about what I'm talking about. I have seen this happen so many times. I've done it myself with the repression, suppression, escapism. We do what we learn. We do what we saw. If we're around people that say don't feel, we learn to not feel, but it's going to come out somewhere. If we have been so shocked and traumatized by something, we will repress that. Because how do you handle it? If you don't have a tool to handle it, of course you're going to run away from it. Nobody wants to stay in pain or suffer or keep reliving it with no resolution, no resolve, who wants to stay in that space? None of us, because it's too painful. So I'm going to start on the karate chop. I want you to tap along with me if this at all sounds familiar to you, if this is at all what you've been doing. And I got to tell you, I don't think there's a person on the planet that hasn't done this. Whether it's a healthy, quote, addiction or not, if it's still making you run because you think you have to, it's still, there's a driver underneath that's making your life a little less peaceful, a little less calm. And if you have to keep busy all the time, I'm telling you, there is an energy underneath there that is screaming to be heard, but you might be looking the other way to cope. It's okay. So let's start on the karate chop point. I'm going to assume you know how to tap. If this is something that is really big and you need help with, you're responsible for your own feelings here. So I'm going to just do a little bit of tapping on resistance, and then we'll see how you feel after that. It might take down a little bit of the charge so that you can actually start to breathe and say, I wasn't being crazy by doing any of this. I was trying to protect myself. A lot of what we do is about protection. So on the side of the hand, karate chop with me. Repeat after me. Even though I don't want to go to those memories. And who would blame me? They're painful. But I'd like to find relief because I want to love, honor, and respect my life. Even though I'm not going near those memories, they're too painful. I'm not crazy. This will not help, I'm sure of it. But what if it could? I'd love to have more peace and comfort in my life. Even though I don't want to go near any of those old memories. And you can't make me. I've tried to shove them under for a long time. On purpose. Maybe by accident. Because there was no solution to ease them out. What if tapping can do that for me now? And that there is a way to ease out those heavy emotions that have developed into such anxiety and pain. Go-tos that are less than healthy. And that I can actually feel freer inside. I want to love, honor, and respect myself. Go to the eyebrow. I may have repressed or suppressed side of the eye, or turn to something for escapism. Under the eye, if that's the only way I knew how to cope. Under the nose, it became the solution. Chin, I'm not going near those memories. Collarbone, but I'm trying to outrun them. Under the arm, I'm not going to those memories. Wrist, they scare me too much and they're too painful. Top of the head, and that's okay if I'm not ready. Eyebrow, but maybe there is another way to resolve them. Side of the eye, I did what I knew how to do. Under the eye, and that's okay. Under the nose, but what if there's a better way now? Chin, what if my body would love that kind of relief? Collarbone that I never saw before. Under the arm that my family or teachers. Wrist couldn't teach me. Top of the head because they didn't know. Eyebrow, I'm not going near those memories. You can't make me. Side of the eye, so I'm going to stand here in resistance. Under the eye, unless I get convinced there is a better way. Under the nose, that could eliminate the pain I'm running from. Chin, that would be relieving. Collarbone, what if it would bring more peace and calm to my life? Under the arm, I'd be open to that. Wrist, but not until I'm convinced. Top of the head, until I feel it's safe to go this route. Take a deep breath. That's just a little bit of giving permission to that resistance, to that digging in the heels. I can't go there. Don't make me remember. You don't have to jump head first. There is a way to take that down with tapping. This was just the start to say, I did the best I could. What if it was good for me at the time? That's what I learned. There wasn't a better solution. So good for me that I figured out some solution. It may not be the best solution, but it's some solution. What if, though, the solution has become the problem and you really want to eliminate the whole anxiety, constant tension, revisiting, repressing, escapism? I know people don't like to go near pain, and this can take it down in a softer, gentler way, a little at a time, to bring you relief, to say, let me come out of fight or flight, which takes away my thought process in a logical way. If I can calm down, what if there is a better way? What if I could stop running and spinning? What if I could stop chasing around, trying to escape? Just some thoughts. See how they land for you. See if they feel comfortable for you. And if you know someone that this might help, give some explanation, give some understanding of what's going on underneath, and some comfort, because I don't think the way we learn to cope is so wrong and bad when we're trying to avoid pain. Who wants pain, right? But if you can find another way that's effective, tapping is one way. I know it can be very effective. I've dealt with a lot of clients in a lot of different ways that were in a lot of pain. So see how this fits for you. See how it feels for you. Again, if you know someone that can help, please share this information. It's a different way of looking at things, but it's so effective when you can release and calm down and be in I don't have to do this anymore. I don't have to chase, run, suppress, repress, escape. And that's a wonderful way to live. This is Joanne from TrueAuthenticPower.com. Until our paths cross again next time, bye-bye for now.